Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show, 204-780-6868, Jets at noon. Right out of the gate, brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. The VIP take on the text line, 204-780-6868. We'll win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. We'll announce the winner later in the program. Coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new Triple Pep Pizza. Only at Boston Pizza. We've got a really exciting show lined up. We'll talk a little bit of Zach Hyman, who, according to Elliot Friedman, reportedly is getting surgery out for the season. The Oilers now a game away from reaching the Stanley Cup once more. We'll touch on that. Dwayne Gylywoychuk is going to be joining us. We get this all the time. Like, I guarantee we're going to get a text message very shortly in the next couple of minutes here, Jim, about the Jets needing more sandpaper, more grit, more toughness. They're not built for the playoffs. That's what they need to be a Stanley Cup contender. Okay, fair enough. Dwayne Gylywoychuk, he amassed 200 penalty minutes in one season with the Brandon Wheat Kings back in his junior days. I think he knows a little bit about this kind of stuff, so he's going to join us after 12:30 to discuss.
I look forward to that.
Also got to get your no trade. You have that idea for the no trade clauses.
Yes.
We teased that yesterday coming out of the show, and we'll make sure we got time for that too. But, and we don't do this, Jim, because the Jets Report airs here on 680 CJOB throughout the day. It does not air on this program.
We are the Jets Report.
We are the Jets
Report.
Report.
Hour.
But it does air on your show later, I think at 1:55. Am I not mistaken?
You are correct.
You will hear it again at 1:55. So we never play this on this show. Not that it isn't fantastic commentary from Paul Edmonds and John Shannon and Kelly Moore. It is. And we usually cover the topic that they're speaking about. And today I think this one is really topical and really poignant in this sort of stage of the Winnipeg Jets offseason. And I want to play Paul Edmonds' Jets Report today to lead into this conversation. You can hear it 4 times daily, Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. And this Wednesday, you're going to hear it 5 times. But the winds of change might be blowing a little harder than most Winnipeg Jets fans would like. The intro to this report reads, especially when it comes to the status of star forward Nikolaj Ehlers. A free agent on July 1st, the availability and probability of Ehlers re-signing with the Jets doesn't appear to be favorable. Paul Edmonds has more in today's Jets Report.
Listening to Kevin Cheveldayoff last week, it would appear the Winnipeg Jets are still very much interested in re-signing star forward Nikolaj Ehlers. With essentially 1 month to go before the 29-year-old hits the open market as an unrestricted free agent, you could say negotiations, if they are truly happening, are past DEFCON 5 and rapidly nearing the 11th hour. During his season-ending availability a week ago today, the Jets GM said the team would, quote, put their best foot forward with Ehlers to try and make a case for him to be a unique Jet for life, end quote. In the time between then and now, one would presume that overture has been extended and the Jets' willingness to consummate a new contract understood by the Ehlers camp. From this seat, however, it may not be the Jets' decision any longer, and the one major stumbling block to Ehlers' continued future in Winnipeg is, in fact, Ehlers himself. After 10 seasons, nearly 700 games, 225 goals, and over 500 points with the organization, if Ehlers wanted to stay with the Jets, an extension would have been signed long ago. But frankly, he was non-committal. Refusing to discuss the subject when pressed earlier in the season, avoided it totally as the campaign progressed, and then seemingly just walked away by boarding a plane for the World Championship within hours of the Jets' season concluding against Dallas. Putting it together, the silence has been unmistakably deafening. As Cheveldayoff also said last week, players like Ehlers have earned the right to become free agents, and that opportunity is respected. But without a doubt, the further this situation moved to this moment, the farther it was getting from ever happening. Sure, the Jets are interested in re-signing Nikolaj Ehlers. They said so last week. The problem is, in reading the tea leaves, it's become painfully clear to many that Nikolaj Ehlers has no interest in re-signing with the Jets.
That was, again, Paul Edmonds here with the Jets Report here on 680 CJOB. Jim Toth, to get your thoughts on that. What do you think?
I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that it's not about the World Championships. Nick could have very easily put out a statement or put something on social media that said, thanks for the season and hopefully be back. Hopefully look forward to what the future holds. Anything. And he brings up a valid point. This goes, Cam, to, and I told you this, around Christmas time. I don't know if it was before or after, but it was around the holidays. Before or after, I was at a Jets game and I was talking to somebody and was told, like, it's your show, our show, but he's like, your guys' show, do what you want, but I wouldn't bang the Ehlers drum re-signing too hard. I'm like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, I just, I'm just feeling that, the organization might be looking to go in a different direction with that. So why? I have no idea. And why? And I know, look, there are people on our text line that can't get rid of Nick Ehlers fast enough. And there are other players other people on our text line that are going to say this would be the biggest mistake the organization has made since returning.
Correct.
Not keeping him.
Yeah.
But that being said, we heard Kevin Cheveldayoff. We have not heard from Nick Ehlers. All we can go from at training camp is when Nick Ehlers said, it's not just about the money. That's part of it. But I've grown up here like every other player that's gotten their extension. They have to want me. And I don't know what Nick's thinking about this. I first of all want to commend him because you would not know any of this was going on this season. Not only on the ice, but off it. Every time he did a post-game interview or talked to the media, there's nobody that wanted to win this year with the Jets more than Nick Ehlers. So if he's more than happy with moving on or wanting to move on, if that is the case, which I don't know, you would never know it from his play or his demeanor or everything about this season. But now the season's over. And I think he, going back to his training camp thoughts, feels a little slighted. I think he thinks and he could be, Cam, and I've said this last week, he's a first-line guy on most NHL teams. First line. The beauty of why the Jets are so good is because he's a second liner. You have first-line guys on your second line. It's the depth, right? And it's going to be hard to replace. But 60 points is 60 points. Zone entries are zone entries. Analytics are analytics. Wins and losses. If the organization feels, and I believe Kevin Cheveldayoff when he says we're putting our best foot forward, but best foot forward could be for us to make the other moves that we want to make is $6.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And your future is on that second line. And the answer isn't to move you up to the first line. It's to figure out how to make the second line just as dynamic as the first one in order for us to win a Stanley Cup. Now, does Nick go, this is the part that I defended him with and always will defend him with. I can understand a player of Nick Ehlers' ilk wanting more. It's not easy to go, I'm a first-line player on 22 of the 32 NHL teams, and I want to play there. This is my career. I'm 10 years into it. I have maybe 5 to 6 really good years left, and I don't want to keep playing 14 to 17 minutes a night. I want to play more. I want to be more involved. I understand that. You would have to be a phenomenally understanding elite athlete to go, I'm okay. I mean, let's go through history. Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen would have been a god on any other team. And then when he went to Portland, was for a while out of Michael Jordan's shadow. Leon Draisaitl. How many Hart trophies would Draisaitl have won if he's not playing with McDavid? It's not but the difference is with those guys is they're still frontline guys, and Nick just isn't on this team. It's too deep.
So I have no doubt that Ehlers wants to win. He's 29 years old. He's entering his prime. He has 5 primo years remaining until he's probably around 34. But we're going to learn a lot about Ehlers' priorities here, right? So is it team direction, right? Is it role and usage? Is it money? Is it a desire for change? And I think he's going to go to a team where he's going to play on the top unit power play. I believe he's going to go to a team where he's going to be on the top line. And I believe he's going to go in a team where he has a chance to win. And the thing about it with free agency is you never know what's going to happen, right? It's kind of a very stressful moment. Like, what's my future hold, right? It's all kind of down to that. Money and cap space get swallowed up fast. You have to make a decision quickly, right? Here's your options on the table. Nick knows what life is like as a Winnipeg Jet very, very well, right? Is this over? Is this essentially done? Is he on his way out? Maybe not. I mean, there's still a lot that has to be figured out here, but it's interesting to me. Like if he goes to a team like, say, Detroit, that to me is usage and role is a part of that, right?
And
money, right? If he goes to a team like Carolina, it's winning, it's usage, it's all those things, right? And the Canes have quite a bit of cap space left, or they have some at least next year.
You just mentioned two teams real quick that will give him everything he wants, or everything he could want. The
Rangers are looking for offense. Boston, right? Philadelphia, Montreal. I mean, we heard that all the time. Oh, he's going to want to go to Montreal. Dean, as I look, Ehlers wants to go to Montreal with Laine. That from Dean. I don't believe that to be true.
I don't believe that. I think he wants to win.
Yeah,
I think he knows. It's not about one thing. Nick Ehlers knows that he can find a winning situation, get more playing time, and cash in.
Correct.
Those are all possible for him.
I think so. And I think that's why he wants...
It's not one or the other.
I think that's why he's going to take a serious look at a fresh start.
And here's the last thing. I've told you this a couple times. Not often, but once in a while, join the guys Halford and Bruff on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And last week when I did it, the majority of the conversation was around Nick Ehlers. And I hung up the phone and I was like, wow, the fan base desperately wants Nick Ehlers. The organization has some high interest in Nick Ehlers. And then I thought, well, if Nick Ehlers could be on a line with Elias Pettersson and be on the number one line and get number one power play time and cash in and live in Vancouver. And I know people think that they're an awful team. They're not. They're a team that was in chaos.
They had a real bad season. Yeah.
But they could get back to it quick. You have Hughes. If you get a healthy Demko. But to me, if you're offering Nick Ehlers more money, more playing time, and putting him with a center of Pettersson's ilk, he can't get that here.
I think Carolina or New York. I think it's the
Who's
Rangers.
his center next year,
I think it's the Rangers or the Canes.
Well,
honestly,
Rangers too.
If Nick Ehlers is not a Jet next year, I think it's one of those two teams. That's my
Rangers,
my best
Canes
guess.
have a chance to win next year.
That's right.
But they can't offer him that here.
Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, do the Jets need more sandpaper? We'll discuss that with Dwayne Gylywoychuk after the 12:30 news. But Jim's got his idea to get rid of no trade clauses. I hate them. I want them gone. But I also know that they're not going anywhere.
I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me.
We'll be
it doesn't
right back.
happen often in my
Well,
life. You said I want to listen to you. I said thank you.
I did want to listen. We'll be right back.
680 CJOB.
We got a recent text message about eliminating the no trade clause. The texter wanted to get rid of it. I don't like the no trade clause. I wish it would go away. That's a pipe dream. That's a hill I believe that players will and would die on when it comes to CBA negotiations. Jim, you have an idea to deal with the thorn in the side of the Winnipeg Jets.
So because I think the players will fight tooth and nail to keep these, or at least the option of having them, I think more and more GMs will offer less of them. But in order to balance it out and help eliminate some of them, is going forward, you have a percentage of each contract that a team can be on. So if Winnipeg's on 78 or 83% of the no trade clause contracts in the National Hockey League for the 700 plus players, if they're on 78 or 84 now, they cannot be on it until that goes down to 30%. So any contract going forward can include Winnipeg now until it's, and then once a certain city, any city is at 30% of the contracts, you cannot put that on your list. So say it's at 30% now. This offseason, you have a 10-team no-trade list. You can't put Winnipeg on it until that percentage goes down to 28.
Call the Boston Pizza Jets at noon. Hotline open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new triple pep pizza and the double trouble nachos available now only at Boston Pizza. Dwayne G with us. Do the Jets need more sandpaper? We asked that question after this.
Tonight's partly cloudy, becoming clear this evening, hazy with a low of 14. Tomorrow, sunny, hazy with a high of 30. And Friday, sunny skies with a high of 30 degrees. Right now, it is 23 degrees outside of 680 CJOB. And now taking you back to Jets at Noon.
Sorry, Aaron.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method.
Unprofessional.
Wow, that was my fault. I put my mic on.
I
put the mic on early.
Good thing
Didn't know
weren't-
there was a massive cough coming down.
Good thing you weren't cussing me out like you usually
like
do.
I usually do. You
Commercial
should, like
breaks.
you would love to hear me in this room before we go on air. I'm yelling and screaming at Forche, just brutal, mean, horrible comments about how bad of a job he's doing. And I look at Jim and I say, and I got to deal with this guy.
I think you have
XYZ. So I'm glad nobody heard that because usually it's atrocious.
I think you have Tourette's in the commercial breaks.
I have to usually apologize at the end of the show. And then I say, but you guys need to be better. Don't make me act like that.
It's always backhanded apologies and compliments.
Yeah.
It's always like, you made me say that to you.
Yeah. It's bad. But don't make me do it. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line wins a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program, which is coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new Triple Pep Pizza only.
Triple Pep!
At Boston
It's real
Pizza.
good, the Triple Pep.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, but they sent it to us that one time. It's delicious. So we get lots of emails. We got lots of text messages, Jim. I got an email from a listener on Monday, and it reads, "Hi, this is from Terrace. Terrace says, the Jets have no sandpaper. Florida is so vicious. They have skill and anger. Jets are not in their league. Chevy is a failure as a GM. Tanev, Lowry are not tough enough. Bennett, Reinhart, Kachuk, Barkov, Marchand, they will hit you into a wall. They smash and have no sympathy. Love Paul Maurice. He is great, but the Jets were too soft and weak for him." I also got other emails, just like this one from Randy last week, who said the Jets are not a cup contender and won't be until they address the lack of size and grit. Now, this is probably the thing we hear the most. At least I do, Jim, and I can't really necessarily speak from you, but the Jets need more grit. They need more toughness. They need more sandpaper. Well,
I did get an email on the weekend that said Maurice and another coach was talking about how they got to pound their defensemen and pound them and make them pay so that by 7 games, how do you expect a guy like Josh Morrissey to survive in a playoff run like that? And I replied the same way Cale Makar does. Cale Makar is the same height and 10 pounds lighter than Josh Morrissey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not that's not the goal. I think I put Josh Morrissey on the board and circle his number every time I get in a playoff series, but it's not going to determine. Anyway, we get this question a lot about size and grit.
It's a constant thing. So I mean, why? And listen, these are valuable characteristics for any cup contending hockey team, and I'm not sure if it's really sort of that defining line, Jim, between a team built for the playoffs and a team not built for the playoffs. And we're joined now by Dwayne Gylywoychuk, 680 CJOB contributor onto the program. Hey, Dwayne, how are you?
Pretty good. How about you? You sound like a head coach giving a speech, pregame speech before. You're yelling at all your players.
Yeah.
You're yelling at all your
Well,
players.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If Jim would just get in the corners and
Jim, I can't do this for you. So wake up.
Jim, you got to stay on the right side of the puck. You're getting caught in the D zone, and we're getting snagged at the neutral. Anyways, this is what I constantly deal with.
He's always probably cheating on offense.
He's the biggest cherry picker.
I'm always stick tapping at the offensive blue line.
Yeah, but Dwayne, listen, you know all about this. What does it actually mean to be a gritty, tough, sandpaper-esque club? Like, what it would help define that better for us and for the listener?
Well, I think, if you go back 10 years ago, there was identified players that would either be on your 5-6 defense pairing or on your 4th line on your hockey club or on your 3rd line. And that would be the role of, lack of better terms, the policeman, the player that was on the ice to take care of anything that got out of control, anybody running around, like you mentioned about Josh Morrissey being highlighted, anybody that would run, or make sure that he was finishing every check he could on Josh Morrissey in the playoff series. There would be somebody on that team back 10 years ago, 7 years ago, that would be identified, hey, I have to do something here, whether it's I go fight the same type of player on the other team or I go and start doing that myself. But I think in today's game, what that means is the willingness to get to inside the dots, the willingness to go to the net, the willingness to get to the net to tip pucks like we've seen Dallas, like we've seen St. Louis do against the Winnipeg Jets. They had those types of players that consistently knew that if they were going to win this series against the Winnipeg Jets, that's what they had to do. And I think that's where it comes down to in today's game. It's the type of game that needs to be played in the playoffs. It's the type of game that needs to be played against certain teams. And we've seen the Winnipeg Jets have success at doing it, the willingness to get there because they had success. But what happens to a player is that when they do it and they don't get success, they say, okay, well, I'm not going to do it anymore. And that's where you see teams like Florida. They bought into the system. They know that they have to continually do it over and over again. They got to get to the inside. They've got to get to the net. And then on the flip side of that, they have defense that are willingness to, defend in front of their goaltender, do whatever it takes, the cross checks, be physical in the corner so they can't get to the net. So you put all that together, that's where the sandpaper and the grit is. And I think that's what's coming today's game in the NHL.
So how do you decide how much of that's enough, right? Like, we hear this all the time, and I always hear they're not built for the playoffs. And in reality, there's only one team built. There's a ton of teams built for the playoffs. It's not built for the playoffs. It's how you play in the playoffs as well. So how do you decide what the right mixture is?
There's a stereotypical idea of what a playoff team is. That's sort of why I would describe it.
Yeah, you know what? I think that the Winnipeg Jets, and let's just take the Winnipeg Jets, for example. I think that if you look at their top four lines, the lines that they finished the season on, I think if you go through all those players, every one of those players, when they have a description, whether they're sitting down with their agent or they're sitting down with the coaching staff, the Winnipeg Jets, the word grit will come out. They need to have the grit as a winger to get pucks out along the wall. As a centerman, they need to win the battles, and they need to tie their centerman up. They need to win the battle in front of the net or in the corners defending. As defensemen, it's like defending on the offensive blue line. They need to make sure that they're stepping up. They're having good gaps. So there's different ways to define that grit and sandpaper, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to being hard to play against. Is a team coming into your building and knowing that they're going to get hit, knowing that they have to go through 5 players every single time on the ice to get to in front of Connor Hellebuyck? Is it that type of game every night? And then when you go on the road, are you able to play that type of game in any opponent's building? And I think that's where we've seen the Winnipeg Jets get to. This year's playoffs round was probably the big step for them in that one department, more than what they did last year. Now they've got to continue building on that in years to come.
Do they need more of it?
I don't think so. I think there's enough there. I just think it's more of a characteristic and mindset. And I think we've seen a little bit more of some key offensive individuals. Kyle Connor scored goals. He got to the inside of the ice. Nick Ehlers started scoring goals. He got to the inside of the ice. But for me, one of the biggest examples of this year's playoffs is somebody that was playing with a little bit more grit than he has in past playoffs was Mark Scheifele. There was no whining after whistles. There was no whining when he got knocked down. He popped right back up, and he was willing to go to the net to score goals. He went to the hard areas of the ice. He played well defensively. I think a piece maybe where they need it, they maybe need that maybe on more on their 5-6 defensemen, a defenseman that's willingness to, finish checks like a Luke Shen did, but somebody still that is, younger that can still use their feet to get out. You think of Hayden Fleury. He doesn't have a lot of grit to him, doesn't have a lot of sandpaper to him. But you look at Florida, their 5-6 defensemen have a piece of that for sure.
Well, and I just want to mention on the size part of defensemen, like nobody thinks Neil Pionk isn't gritty. I think he's like one of the grittiest in-your-face battling kind of guys. He can be pushed a little bit by a big forward, but he's gritty, right?
Yeah, Dwayne, and I think you're explaining it so well because I think all those things are more important than somebody having an extra 5 pounds and another 2 inches on them, right? I think that just because somebody doesn't have that, it doesn't automatically just disqualify them from having the ability to be those kinds of players. And I think sometimes we sort of fall into the trap of, our favorite team lost, the Winnipeg Jets, they got bounced in the second round. Okay, they're disappointed, right? It's sort of size, grit, sandpaper, toughness, while not actually properly defining what those words mean, like as you just did so well. I think they're just sort of these buzzwords, right? It's like it's an easy way to sort of explain why the Jets lost. Oh, it's because they don't have enough size on defense, and that's why things didn't work out. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah,
no, exactly. I think that if you look at anytime there's a television broadcast of playoff series right now, there's always that monologue before the puck drop, and it's about, they talk about playing hard, playing grit. They talk about, finishing their checks. You hear the little tidbits from the coaches or the players. That's what they're trying to describe. Is this time of year, especially when it gets to the Final Four, is that someone's got to have that willingness to get to the hard areas, and that takes grit, that takes willingness, and I think that's what it's all about. But I think right now, if you look at how the game is played, you look at some players around the league. But for me, when I talk to other players, young individuals, and they go to their first pro camp and they talk about it was so hard to get by the bigger guys, the professional guys, I said, you think about Martin St. Louis as a player. He was small, but he had probably the most grit that I've seen in a player probably till this day. He was willingness to go anywhere he would, and every time he was on the ice, everybody knew he was on the ice.
Yeah. You had a little grit in your day, right?
Well, I tried to, but sometimes people answered the bell and had more than me, so.
Yeah. Well, Theo Fleury, I mean, like 5'6",
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that guy got great.
Of the 4 teams left, right before we let you go, Dwayne, who do you like? Is it Florida? It's hard not to, right?
Yeah, you know what? Florida seems to be going on all cylinders. They've got everybody kind of buying in the system. Players go in and out. Players get hurt. The one thing I would say about Florida, it looks like at times their goaltender is getting a little tired, so that would be one thing to watch for them. But I honestly think that Edmonton, the way they played last night, they gave Dallas nothing. And, if you get those two players, Draisaitl and McDavid playing, they can just win a series for you. They can win the Stanley Cup. And the closer they get to that last round, I just have a feeling that Connor McDavid's not going to let it go out of his hands again.
Dwayne Gylywoychuk, 680 CJOB contributor, past pro player, coach. Dwayne, thanks so much. Appreciate your time and your insight.
Enjoy the day. Take it easy on Jim after the show.
Yeah, please.
It's easy for you to say.
I'm going to get a little gritty after the show.
Thanks, Dwayne. Yeah, 204-780-68. Yeah, awesome stuff there. I mean, there's certain hills I'm willing to die on, Jim, like we were talking about. No trade clauses for players being held that they're willing to die on in this upcoming CBA. It's solid positioning and winning 50-50 pucks. I just think is more valuable to a team and their odds of winning the Stanley Cup than being nasty and bringing just sort of that extra level of physicality. I just believe that, and everything that I see, reinforces my belief in that sense.
When they have lost to Colorado and Vegas, they were hitting and they were tough and they were Pierre-Luc Dubois was down the middle.
Yeah.
And not Lash, but and it just, I think it's about will, right? We've just mentioned a ton of small players that have the grit and all this and stuff. You can't sit down and go, you're not going to tell me Tanev isn't gritty. You're not going to tell me Appleton isn't gritty. Yeah. They don't go to the hard places. They don't do those things. They needed to score more this playoffs. They had a ton of opportunities, and they didn't bury the opportunities. That has nothing to do with size or grit. So when you tell me they lost in this second round, I'm sorry, listeners. It wasn't because of lack of grit. It's because they couldn't bury any of their multiple chances.
And I think that
that was a difference.
I think some of this is responsibilities on some people that I guess essentially talk about this sort of thing, because why didn't the Jets lose? Why didn't the Jets get out of the second round? Well, it's so, and that's why I wanted to talk about that, because there's like this stereotype of what a team is that wins in the Stanley Cup, and we've seen so many different types of teams win Stanley Cups, and then everybody just jumps on the bandwagon and is like, "Oh, that's the way you have to win," and every team's got to change, right? It's a copycat league in that sense, and I think general managers fall for it too, to their detriment in most cases, because I think most of the time you got to run with what you have and the horses that got you there.
It's a copycat league, Cam, and to me, it's not about that. It's about what do you have and how do you figure out what you have can win.
Yeah,
that's what Paul Maurice does. It's not going, well, you can't go into a fast, finesse, highly skilled team and go, we're going to be gritty now, and you're going to start hitting everything that moves.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that. So you have to sit with what you have, and for every Florida and for every Oilers, the Florida and the Oilers teams are vastly different.
Round one against...
But you have to get what you have to play the best way they can in the version of where you think they can win. That's what it's about. Understanding what you have and getting the most out of what you have. You can't take a square peg and put it in a round hole.
Round one against St. Louis and the Jets. Jets are a much, on paper, much more talented, skilled team than the St. Louis Blues. How did St. Louis give themselves the best chance? And they almost took that series. Well, they had to play the way that they played.
They played nasty. They played physical. And then the Jets beat them.
And the Jets beat them.
And then Dallas wasn't as nasty and physical, but they couldn't score.
So
and the Oilers are scoring at will. And that's the difference to me. That's why Dallas is down 3-1 and the Jets lost to Dallas, is Edmonton buries their chances.
This texter says Jets need more McDavid and Draisaitl. I couldn't agree more.
Every team needs more McDavid and Draisaitl.
We'll be right back.
CJOB.
Just to really wrap up the conversation from the last, from before we give away the wash, and we talked very briefly about Zach Hyman. The Winnipeg, like talking about have to be physical, have to have grit, sandpaper. You got to smash the other team. The Jets out-hit Dallas 373 to 198 in the series, in the 6 games. They out-hit Dallas in every single game except for game 3 where it was 42 to 41. Oh, and game 2 as well, 43 to 37. Right?
Yeah, and it's not a good thing.
And the Jets won that game too, 37
so
to 43.
they were way more physical and gritty. The other thing is it's not a good thing to out-hit a team every night because that means you don't have the puck.
Yeah.
Like the goal is to have the puck and create more offense. And if you're out-hitting a team 2-1 and being really physical, it's because you don't have it.
So move on from this idea that grit, sandpaper, and whatever, all that stuff and toughness is just relative to beating the crap of the other team. It's a heck of a lot more than that. So that's just some food for thought.
I'll argue Florida's best line is their third one, and they're not out. Like they're
food for thought. Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. The VIP text comes from Kirk. He says, I love Ehlers, but I don't think he's built for the playoffs. Sure, great player during the regular season, but playoffs, yes, he had a good playoffs this year, but it wasn't great. Then look at previous playoffs. We need a top 2 center. We can find other wingers with our current lineup or go for a free agent. We are close. That from Kirk. Miss your chance to get the thoughts on the show today. He wins himself a car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new triple pep pizza and double trouble nachos available now only at Boston Pizza. The number 1 caller on that line will be awarded a $50 gift certificate to Boston Pizza on Friday. Real quick here, Jim, we only got 30 seconds, but Zach Hyman getting surgery from Elliot Friedman, likely done for the season. How big of a blow is this for the Oilers and their chances to finally get over the hump?
Really starting to catch fire. It's a big blow in my mind.
Yeah,
now,
I think so
it's
too.
not insurmountable. I think up 3-1 that, again, like I said about Dallas, it's hard to beat them 3 in a row. It's going to be hard to beat this Oilers team 3 in a row, but it helps Dallas going home. You got to win the home one, right? Just like the Jets did. Then you got to go. Like, I think people forget too, like you shut out an elimination game at home and you went to Dallas and lost in overtime on a penalty kill. It's that close.
Off a penalty that you had to take.
And if you come home with an overtime win, tied 3-3, so that's what Dallas has to do, right?
Jim Toth will take you all the way until 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. We'll be back.
He says
same
thank
time
you
tomorrow.
now, Jeff, but we know what's coming, right? A whole lot of yelling. We're not a fan of the yelling and the screaming.
Don't give it all away. We'll be all right. I'll see you tomorrow.